My stomach growled again, but I ignored it. It was just past noon when the office finally went quiet. The kind of quiet that only happens during lunch hour when keyboards stop clicking, phones stop ringing, and most people disappear into break rooms or nearby restaurants. I sat at my desk on the lower floor, staring at the spreadsheet on my screen, trying to finish the data entry work before anyone noticed I was still here. My fingers moved across the keyboard slowly now. I was tired. The kind of tired that comes from skipping breakfast and pretending everything is fine. Up on the executive level, someone else was having a very different kind of day. Mia Bennett stood in her private office. She wore her elegant soft pink midi dress and playing with her hair, a habit she developed when thinking hard about something. On her desk sat a neat stack of reports, each one worth more money than I would see in a year, maybe 2 years. But her mind was not on the reports. She stared out the tall glass windows at the city below, feeling restless in a way she could not explain. For years, she had trained herself to focus only on numbers, strategies, and outcomes. People were names on a screen to her, performance reviews, productivity charts, nothing more. But today felt different somehow. Down the hall from her office, the faint hum of the employee break room caught her attention. She glanced at her watch. Lunch hour. She rarely paid attention to things like that. Her assistant usually brought her meals directly to her office. But today something pulled her toward that sound. She told herself she just needed coffee. Black coffee before her next meeting. That was all. She left her office and walked down the quiet hallway, her footsteps barely making a sound on the polished floor. The break room was nearly empty when she stepped inside. A microwave beeped softly in the corner, forgotten by whoever had used it. The round table near the window held several paper bags and plastic containers, clearly left behind by people in a rush to get outside and enjoy the weather. But one item stood apart from all the rest. An old lunchbox made of faded green fabric. The zipper had been stitched twice, and not by a professional. The stitching was clumsy, done by hand, probably late at night by someone who could not afford to replace it. It did not belong in a building like this, surrounded by expensive coffee machines and people wearing designer clothes. Mia frowned slightly, not in a mean way but curious. She walked closer and picked it up, thinking she would just move it aside so the cleaning staff would not accidentally throw it away. The weight surprised her. It was lighter than she expected. She hesitated for a moment, then slowly pulled the zipper open. Inside was not what she thought she would find. There was no takeout container, no expensive salad from the place down the street, no fancy brand names, just a simple sandwich wrapped carefully in wax paper, a small orange, a plastic container that looked like it held homemade soup, and tucked neatly on top of everything, a folded napkin with handwriting on it. She picked up the napkin and unfolded it carefully. The words were written in blue ink, slightly uneven, as if someone had written them quickly but with care. Eat the orange last. Save the soup for tonight. Mia stared at those words for a long moment. She read them again and again. Slowly, something uncomfortable twisted in her chest. This was not just a lunch. This was someone's entire meal for the day, maybe longer. The note was an instruction, a reminder, a way to make one meal stretch into 2. She had reviewed hundreds of employee files over the years. She knew salaries. She knew job titles. She knew who was performing well and who was not. But this small, handwritten note told her something no spreadsheet or report ever could. She closed the lunchbox slowly, feeling something she had not felt in years. Guilt, maybe, or shame, or something else entirely. She did not know. The door opened behind her. I stepped inside and stopped immediately when I saw her standing there, holding my lunchbox in her hands. My face went hot, then cold. All the blood seemed to drain away at once. Of all the people in this building, it had to be her. I recognized her from the company newsletter. Mia Bennett, the CEO, the founder, the person who decided everything. "I am so sorry," I said quickly, forcing my voice to stay calm even though panic was rising in my throat. "That is mine. I did not mean to leave it here." My hands were shaking slightly, so I clasped them in front of me to hide it. Mia turned to face me. Her eyes met mine, and for a brief second, neither of us spoke. She looked at me in a way I could not quite understand. Not angry, not annoyed, something else. I was just moving it, she said evenly, stepping forward to hand it back to me. I did not mean to pry. Her voice was softer than I expected. I took the lunchbox from her hands, nodding once. It is fine. Thank you. Our eyes met again, just for a moment. I expected to see judgment there. Pity, maybe, but there was neither. Just something I could not name. I turned and walked out of the break room, my heart pounding so hard I thought she might hear it. I did not look back. I did not want to know if she was still watching. Behind me, Mia remained standing in the empty break room, staring at the spot where I had been. She did not move for a long time. The image of that lunchbox stayed with her. The careful way everything had been packed. The handwritten note. The quiet instruction meant for someone who was struggling in a way she had forgotten people could struggle. She had built this company from nothing. She knew what hard work looked like. But somewhere along the way, she had stopped seeing the people doing that work. She had stopped noticing the small things, the real things. And now, standing alone in that quiet room, she realized she had missed something important, something human. She did not know my name yet. She did not know my story. But she knew that something about a simple green lunchbox had followed her back to her office and settled into her thoughts, refusing to leave. Without realizing it, Mia Bennett had just taken her first step toward falling in love. I did not rush back to my desk. My legs felt weak, but I forced myself to walk normally. I took the long way around the floor, keeping the lunchbox close against my side. My steps were measured and quiet. Not because I was afraid exactly, but because I had learned something important a long time ago. Drawing attention never helped. In a building filled with ambitious people climbing ladders and making names for themselves, it was safer to move like I was part of the furniture. Invisible, forgettable, safe. I finally reached my desk and sat down, placing the lunchbox carefully beneath my chair where no one could see it. I powered on my computer and watched the screen light up. Emails waited in my inbox. 23 new messages since I last checked an hour ago. Calendar reminders blinked at me. A request for copies. A request for updated reports. A request to work overtime tomorrow night. I answered them all one by one, my fingers moving automatically across the keyboard. But what no one in that office saw was the way my other hand tightened around the edge of my desk when my stomach growled again. Louder this time. Or how I glanced at the clock on my computer screen, doing quick math in my head. Could I wait until 6 to eat? 7? How long until I got home? The blue numbers on the screen stared back at me. 12:47 p.m. Still so many hours left. I had packed that meal carefully the night before, standing in my tiny kitchen after getting home from work. The soup was left over from a big batch I made on Sunday. One pot, stretched across 3 dinners if I was careful about portions. The sandwich was made from the end pieces of bread because I was saving the middle slices for later in the week. It was half of what I used to eat for lunch back when things were different. The orange was from a bag I bought on sale. That orange was supposed to be for later. For tonight, actually, when the hunger would get worse. I wrote myself notes sometimes. Little reminders on napkins or scraps of paper. Not because I had a bad memory, but because it helped me stay strict with myself. It helped me follow the rules I had created to survive. I had been working at this company for just over a year now. 13 months to be exact. Entry-level position. Administrative work. Data entry, filing, answering phones, making copies, whatever anyone needed. I had no connections when I applied. No family members who knew someone important. No safety net to catch me if I fell. Just a resume and a hope that someone would take a chance on me. They did, barely. The pay was not much. Actually, it was less than I needed, but I took it anyway because I was desperate. My paycheck disappeared fast every 2 weeks. Rent came first. It had to. Then utilities because I needed lights and heat. Then groceries, whatever was left, which was never much. After that, there was nothing. No savings. No emergency fund. No room for mistakes. I did not complain, though. never out loud. When my coworkers gathered near the coffee machine talking about the new restaurant they tried over the weekend, I smiled and listened. When they ordered lunch from the expensive place down the street and asked if I wanted anything, I said no thank you, I brought something from home. When someone offered to cover my meal, I declined politely with an excuse ready. I had to work through lunch anyway. I was not that hungry. I was saving money for something special. The excuses changed, but the answer stayed the same. No, but thank you. Pride was not the reason I said no. People think that, but they are wrong. The real reason was simpler and harder to explain. Accepting help always came with questions. Where do you live? What do you do for fun? Why do you always bring lunch? How much do you pay for rent? The questions felt harmless to the people asking them, but each one was a tiny knife cutting closer to things I did not want to share. And once you started answering, people wanted to help more. They wanted to fix things. They wanted to get involved. And involvement meant attention. Attention meant risk. So I smiled, declined politely, and kept my distance. Instead of asking for help, I worked harder. I stayed late when others went home early. I volunteered for the tasks nobody else wanted to do. I covered shifts when people called in sick. I made myself useful, reliable, dependable. I believed that if I proved myself valuable enough, I could stay invisible and employed at the same time. It was a balance I had been trying to maintain for 13 months. Across the building, up on the executive level, Mia sat behind her massive desk. A report lay open in front of her, full of numbers and projections and graphs going up and to the right. She stared at it without reading a single word. Her mind was somewhere else entirely. The image of that green lunchbox would not leave her alone. She kept seeing it, the faded fabric, the clumsy stitching on the zipper, the way everything inside had been packed so carefully, like every item mattered, like every bite counted. She had built companies before. This was her third and by far the most successful. She had seen struggle up close when she was younger, back before the money came. Back when she was the one eating cheap meals and wondering how to make rent. But that felt like a lifetime ago now. Somewhere along the way, after the success came, after the money started flowing, she had stopped looking at those small details. She told herself it was necessary. Leaders had to focus on the big picture. Strategy, growth, profit margins. You could not run a company by worrying about every single person's problems. That was what she told herself, anyway. But now, sitting in her quiet office, that handwritten note kept replaying in her mind. Save the soup for tonight. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Tonight. It was such a simple, practical instruction. And somehow that made it hurt worse than any dramatic story could have. This was not someone asking for help. This was someone surviving quietly, alone, without expecting anything from anyone. She pulled up the employee directory on her tablet and scrolled through names until she found the one she was looking for. My name appeared on the screen along with a small photo from my employee badge. The picture was plain, professional, forgettable, just like I wanted it to be. She read the details listed under my name. Administrative assistant, level 1. Hired 13 months ago. No warnings in my file. No complaints. Solid performance reviews. Always on time. Always helpful. Always reliable. The words on the screen told her I was a good employee. But they told her nothing about who I actually was. Mia leaned back in her chair and let out a slow breath. She wondered how many people like me worked in this building. How many stories like mine were hidden behind polite smiles and quiet hard work. How many times had she walked past someone struggling and never even noticed? The thought sat heavy in her chest. She did not like it. The next morning, I woke up before my alarm again. My hands moved on their own now, packing the green lunchbox in the dark kitchen while my roommate slept in the other room. Leftover rice from yesterday. A small apple one had been saving. Soup I made Sunday that would last until Wednesday if I was careful. I wrote myself another note on a napkin. Apple after work. Soup is for tomorrow. Then I folded it and tucked it inside. The bus ride took 40 minutes. I watched buildings pass by through dirty windows and thought about nothing important. When I arrived at the office, the lobby was still empty. I liked it that way. No one asked questions when you arrived early. No one noticed when you left late. I was just another person doing their job. But something felt different today. I could not explain it. Maybe it was the way the security guard nodded at me, or how the elevator seemed quieter than usual. I shook it off and went to my desk. There was work waiting. There was always work waiting. Around mid-morning, I was carrying a stack of files to the third floor when I saw her, Mia Bennett. She was standing near the copy machine, talking to someone from accounting. Our eyes met for just a second. She looked away first. I kept walking, but my heart beat faster. Did she remember me from yesterday? Did she think I was strange? I pushed the thought down and focused on my steps. One foot, then the other. Do not trip. Do not drop anything. Do not be noticed. Later that morning, my supervisor asked me to help a new employee figure out the database system. His name was Marcus, and he looked lost. I spent 20 minutes showing him how to search for files and where to save reports. He thanked me 3 times. I told him it was no problem, even though I had my own deadlines. When he left, I stayed an extra 30 minutes to finish what I had missed. No one asked me to, but if I did not, someone else would have to, and they might have families waiting at home. Lunch hour came. I walked to the break room with my lunchbox pressed against my side. My stomach had been growling since 10, but I had learned to ignore it. The break room was almost full today. People laughing, sharing fries, talking about their weekend plans. I found my usual spot by the window, away from everyone. I unzipped my lunchbox slowly, like opening something precious. The soup looked back at me, still warm from this morning. I stared at it for a long moment. If I ate it all now, I would have nothing for tomorrow. But if I saved half, I could make it last. My hands moved before I could think too hard. I poured half into a bowl. The rest I sealed tight and placed back in the lunchbox. Then I ate, slowly, 1 spoonful at a time. I made each bite count, made each taste last as long as I could. Some people finished their meals in 5 minutes. Mine took 20. When I was done, I wiped the bowl clean with a napkin. Waste nothing. My mother taught me that. Then I saw it. Across the table sat another lunchbox. It belonged to Priya, someone from marketing. She always brought fancy meals her husband packed. Today she was not here yet. Her lunchbox sat unopened. Next to my hand was the apple, the one I was supposed to eat after work. I looked at it, then at her lunchbox, then back at the apple. Priya had mentioned yesterday that she forgot breakfast. She said it quietly, like she was embarrassed. No one else heard, but I did. I picked up the apple and placed it next to her lunchbox. Then I stood up, gathered my things, and left before anyone could see. I did not know Mia Bennett was watching from the doorway. I did not know she had been standing there the whole time. I went back to my desk and opened my email. 43 new messages. I answered them one by one, my stomach still half empty, my mind already planning what I could cook on Sunday to make it through next week. This was normal. This was life. I did not feel sorry for myself. I just kept going. That afternoon, I helped someone in HR find a missing document. Then I stayed late to help a colleague finish a report his manager needed by morning. By the time I left, the sun had already set. The bus ride home was long and cold. I thought about the apple one gave away. I thought about the soup waiting for tomorrow. I thought about nothing and everything. When I finally walked through my apartment door, my roommate was already asleep. I heated water for tea and sat in the dark kitchen, too tired to turn on the lights. Tomorrow I would wake up early again, pack my lunchbox again, ride the bus again, and no one would know how hard I worked to make it look easy. No one except her. But I did not know that yet. Thursday morning started like any other, but Mia Bennett arrived at her office while the sky was still dark. She had not slept well. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw that green lunchbox. She saw the way I portioned my food, the way I gave away what little I had. She sat at her desk and opened her laptop, but the reports in front of her felt empty. Numbers on a screen, profits and losses. For years, this had been enough. Now it felt like she had been staring at the wrong things her whole life. She made a decision. She would not call HR. She would not announce anything. She would simply watch. Really watch. See what she had been missing. During the morning meeting, she noticed who spoke and who stayed silent. I sat near the back, taking notes, never raising my hand. When someone asked a question I clearly knew the answer to, I waited to see if anyone else would respond first. When no one did, I answered quietly without making it sound important. Then I went silent again. Mia wrote something in her notebook. She did not say what. Around 10:30, she walked past the bullpen where most of us worked. I was at the printer refilling paper before the tray ran out. No one had asked me to do it. I just did it. When I turned around, I nearly ran into Tom from sales. He had spilled coffee on his shirt and looked upset. Without a word, I pulled a stain remover pen from my desk drawer and handed it to him. He looked surprised. I just shrugged and went back to my computer. Mia saw all of it from across the room. She did not approach. She just watched. Lunchtime arrived. She walked past the break room but did not go inside. Instead, she stood in the hallway where I could not see her. Through the glass door, she watched me sit alone again. Watch me open my lunchbox with the same careful hands. This time I had rice and leftover soup. I poured only half the soup into my bowl, just like the day before. I ate slowly, staring out the window like I was somewhere else. When I finished, I wiped everything clean and packed it away. Before leaving, I placed a granola bar on the table. Not next to anyone's lunch. Just there. Available. For whoever needed it. Then I walked out, head down, saying nothing. Mia stepped into the break room after I left. She picked up the granola bar and turned it over in her hands. It was a store brand, the cheap kind, and I had left it behind like it cost nothing. She set it back down and walked away, something heavy settling in her chest. That afternoon, a meeting turned ugly. A junior employee named Kevin had made a mistake on a client report. His manager tore into him in front of everyone. Kevin sat there, face red, hands shaking. No one defended him. When the meeting ended, people scattered quickly. Mia watched Kevin gather his things, his eyes wet. Then she saw me approach him. I did not say anything at first. I just placed a stack of papers on his desk. Corrections, notes, things I had already fixed. Kevin looked up at me, confused. I told him it happened to everyone. Then I walked away before he could thank me. Mia made another note in her notebook. Friday came. An intern named Sarah skipped lunch, saying she had too much work. I walked past her desk twice. The third time I stopped. I asked if she had eaten. She said no. I opened my lunchbox, hesitated for just a moment, then split my sandwich in half. I placed it on her desk with a bottle of water and left without waiting for a response. Sarah called after me, but I was already gone. Mia saw it happen from her office. She leaned back in her chair and closed her eyes. That afternoon, a temporary team lead position opened. Came with more hours, more pay, better opportunities. I was qualified. My supervisor even mentioned I should apply. But when Mia called me into her office for a private meeting, I said no. She asked why. I explained that there were others who needed it more. Daniel had 2 kids. Priya was helping her parents pay medical bills. Kevin was still recovering from this week. They needed the money more than I did. Mia studied my face, searching for something. A hidden reason. A secret angle. She found nothing. I simply believed what I said. She asked if I was sure. I nodded. Then I stood to leave. But before I reached the door, she stopped me. She asked why I gave so much when I had so little. I paused, my hand on the doorknob. I told her it was not about what I had. It was about what I could do. Then I left. Mia sat alone in her office for a long time after that. She thought about everything she had seen. Every small moment. Every quiet kindness. She had built this company from nothing. She had fought, sacrificed, and succeeded. But somewhere along the way she had stopped seeing people. She had stopped seeing what mattered. Until a green lunchbox forced her to look again. Until I forced her to look again. and now she could not look away. Over the following weeks, something changed in the building. New policies appeared on bulletin boards. Overtime pay was adjusted. Quiet workers who never spoke up in meetings suddenly got recognized in company emails. Team leaders were told to listen more and talk less. The kitchen got stocked with free snacks and better coffee. People noticed. They whispered about it in hallways, wondering what had changed, why the company suddenly felt different. I noticed too. I just did not say anything. But I also started pulling away from Mia. I stopped making eye contact when she walked past my desk. I took the stairs instead of the elevator so I would not run into her between floors. When she sent emails, my responses became shorter. Yes. No. I will finish that today. Thank you. Nothing more. She never pushed, never called me into her office to ask why, never demanded an explanation. That made it worse somehow. I wanted her to argue, to demand answers, to give me a reason to be angry. Instead, she just let me be. One Tuesday afternoon, I was helping a new hire find files in the storage room when I overheard two managers talking outside the door. One of them said Mia had been asking strange questions lately, like who worked hardest without complaining and who helped others without being asked. The other manager laughed and said she was probably looking for someone to promote. I froze, my hands still on a filing cabinet, and felt my stomach drop. Was that what this was? Some kind of test? Had she been watching everyone, or just me? I left work early that day claiming I felt sick. It was not a lie. At home, I sat on my couch with my green lunchbox on the coffee table in front of me, staring at it like it held answers. I thought about the note she had read, the one I had written to myself. Eat the orange last. Save the soup for tonight. Simple instructions to make sure I did not waste anything, to make sure I survived another day. She had seen that. She had seen how I lived, how careful I had to be, and I hated that she knew. But I also hated that I cared what she thought. The next morning, I got to work and found my lunchbox missing. I checked under my desk 3 times, looked in the break room, asked the cleaning staff. Nothing. Panic crawled up my throat. That lunchbox was old and worn, but it was mine. I had used it for years. Losing it felt like losing something I could not replace. Just before lunch, I found a folded note on my keyboard. It said to meet in the break room at noon. No name, but I knew the handwriting. I almost did not go. I almost threw the note away and pretended I never saw it. But my lunchbox was missing, and I needed it back. So I went. Mia was standing by the window when I walked in, holding my lunchbox in both hands like it was fragile. The sight of it made my chest tight. She turned when she heard me enter and held it out without saying anything at first. I took it carefully, checking the zipper, the stitching, the faded green fabric. It looked cleaner. The zipper moved smoother. The clumsy stitching I had done myself was still there, but someone had reinforced it properly without changing it. I looked up at her, confused. She spoke quietly. She said she took it without asking, and that was wrong, but she wanted to fix it, not replace it. She said she noticed the zipper stuck sometimes and thought it deserved to be treated better. I unzipped it slowly. Inside was my usual meal, the same things I always packed, but on top was a folded napkin with new handwriting. It said, "Eat now. You do not have to save everything for later." My throat went tight. I wanted to be angry, to tell her she had no right to take my things or tell me how to live. But the words would not come. Instead, I asked why she did not just talk to me. Why she watched from a distance. Why she changed the whole company instead of just helping me directly. She was quiet for a moment, then said she did not want to single me out or make me feel like charity. She said she realized the problem was not just me, it was everywhere, in people who worked hard and stayed silent because they were afraid. She said watching me made her see what she had been ignoring for years. I sat down at the table, still holding my lunchbox. I told her I felt like an experiment, like she had been studying me to see what I would do. She sat across from me and said that was fair, that she understood why it felt that way, but it was not the whole truth. She said she started paying attention because of curiosity, but she kept paying attention because she cared. I asked her how I was supposed to believe that when she hid in hallways watching me. She said she never lied, I just never asked, and maybe that was the problem. We sat in silence for a while. Outside the window, people walked past on the street below, living their lives, unaware of us. Finally, I told her this did not fix everything. She nodded and said she knew. I told her I needed time to figure out if I could trust her, if this was real or just guilt. She said she would wait, that she was not going anywhere, and that I did not owe her anything. I stood up, lunchbox in hand, and walked toward the door. Before I left, I stopped and looked back. I told her the note meant something. Not everything, but something. She smiled, just a little, and said that was enough for now. I spent the rest of the week thinking. I watched how she moved through the building, how she talked to people, how she listened. I saw her stop to help someone carry boxes, saw her stay late to fix a scheduling mistake that was not her fault, saw her eat lunch alone in her office with the door open like she was hoping someone would walk in. Slowly, carefully, I started to believe that maybe she meant what she said. Maybe respect was enough to start with. Maybe it was okay to let someone see me, really see me, without falling apart. 3 months passed quietly. I stopped avoiding her, but I did not seek her out either. We existed in the same space, professional and polite, like two people who knew a secret but were not ready to talk about it yet. The company kept changing in small ways. People smiled more. Meetings felt less tense. Someone put a suggestion box in the lobby, and people actually used it. I still brought my green lunchbox every day, still packed my meals carefully, but now I ate during lunch instead of waiting until I could not wait anymore. My body stopped aching all the time. I slept better. I had enough energy to stay after work, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. One Friday afternoon in late autumn, I found another note on my desk. This one was different. It was an invitation, not a command. It said she would be eating lunch outside on the bench across the street at noon, and I was welcome to join her if I wanted. No pressure. No expectations. I read it twice, then folded it and put it in my pocket. At 11:55, I stood by the window on my floor, looking down at the street below. I could see the bench from here, empty and waiting. My lunchbox sat on my desk behind me, packed and ready. I thought about ignoring the note, about eating at my desk like I had done so many times before, but something pulled me toward the door. I took the elevator down, walked across the street, and sat on the bench. She arrived 2 minutes later, carrying a simple paper bag. She sat down, leaving space between us, and unpacked her lunch without saying anything. We ate in silence for a while, watching people walk past, listening to the city hum around us. Finally, she spoke. She said she had been thinking about the first time she saw my lunchbox, about the note I had written to myself. She said it stayed with her because it reminded her of something she had forgotten, that survival was not the same as living. I asked what made her remember. She said it was me, the way I gave things away even when I had almost nothing, the way I helped people without expecting anything back. She said it made her realize how much she had stopped seeing people as people. I told her I did not do those things to be noticed. I did them because I knew what it felt like to be invisible, to need help and be too afraid to ask. She nodded and said that was exactly why it mattered. We finished eating, and she asked if I wanted to take a walk. I said yes. We walked through the park near the office, past trees losing their leaves, past families sitting on blankets, past joggers and dog walkers and street musicians. She told me she had fallen in love with me before she knew I was struggling. She said it started the first time she saw me help someone without being asked, the way I moved through the world like kindness was automatic. I stopped walking and looked at her. I told her I stayed because she changed, not for me, but for everyone. I said the moment I started believing her was when I read the note she put in my lunchbox, the one that told me I did not have to save everything for later. She asked what I wanted now, what came next. I said I wanted to build something real, slowly and carefully, without anyone having more power than the other. I said I wanted to start here as equals and see where it went. She smiled and said that sounded right. We walked back to the office together, side by side, not holding hands but close enough that our shoulders almost touched. Over the next few months, things shifted in ways I had not expected. We started eating lunch together once a week, sometimes on the bench, sometimes in the break room, sometimes in her office with the door open. We talked about work, about life, about things that mattered and things that did not. I learned she grew up with everything I never had, but that did not make her life easy. She learned I had spent years building walls to keep people out, and that letting her in was terrifying. One day, she asked if she could take me to dinner, somewhere nice, her treat. I said yes, but only if we split the bill. She laughed and agreed. We went to a small restaurant downtown. Nothing fancy, just good food and quiet conversation. For the first time, I felt like we were just two people, not a CEO and an employee, not someone powerful and someone struggling, just us. Months later, I walked into the lobby and saw something new. My green lunchbox sat in a glass case on the wall, carefully displayed with a small plaque underneath. The plaque did not tell the whole story, just said it represented kindness, resilience, and the importance of seeing each other fully. People walked past it every day without knowing what it really meant. But we knew. I found her in her office that afternoon and asked why she did it. She said it was a reminder, for her and for everyone else, that the smallest things could matter the most. I told her it was perfect. We stood there for a moment, looking at each other, and I realized something had shifted completely. Love had not arrived with grand gestures or dramatic confessions. It arrived in shared meals, in respect earned over time, in the choice to see someone fully and let yourself be seen in return. I reached into my bag and pulled out my lunch, a sandwich wrapped carefully in wax paper. I broke it in half and handed her a piece. She took it, smiling, and we ate together in her office, the door open, the world moving quietly around us. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be.